It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mala Kapadia, who will be speaking on Ardhanariswara today. Dr. Mala Kapadia is the Director of Wellness Practice, Professor, and Resident Mentor at Rashtriam School of Public Leadership. She is the founder of Human Potential Consulting, named Tame the Monkey. She was an adjunct professor with SPJ in School of Global Management in Dubai, Singapore, Sydney, and Mumbai campuses since 2005 to March 2020. With a PhD in literature, her academic journey has taken her through the fields of psychology, human resources, yoga and Ayurveda, film and video production. Her career has spanned the fields of research, education, journalism, human resources, and consulting. Her area of research is Indic wisdom for a better humanity. Dr. Mala Kapadia has presented and participated in various international conferences and journals. As part of her efforts to maintain and promote sustainable living, she lives at Nivritti Grama, which is a sustainable living initiative by Vaidyagrama Ayurvedic Healing Village.
Namaskaram everyone. Dhanyavada Pushkar. My gratitude to Tantrosav and the Divine Mother for creating this possibility for us to deliberate on Shiva. So many names, right? I mean, there are 64 names and Ardhanari Nateshwar is the name that I have chosen today. These days before Mahashivratri are the days of immense possibility of self-transformation, sadhana, divine energy download, and our own evolution. We all are at different levels of consciousness, and whatever we receive, whatever we perceive, whatever we share, whatever we talk, all happens from that level of consciousness. And this is exactly what Ardhanariswara is, right? Materialistic, mundane, everyday life, and also the spiritual life. The manifest and the unmanifest, passive and dynamic, consciousness and energy, sun or Agneya and moon or the Saumya, Purush or Prakruti. This is not only the reality of the whole cosmos, but this is also reality of each and every individual. And therefore, I realize that there are many ways to reach Ardhanari Nateshwar. How do you reach? One path can be through only iconography. There is so much literature, so much scholarly literature available of the temples, of iconography, from Indian perspective, from Western eye, and there are different interpretations. There are so many stories connected in various Puranas, from Shiva Puran, Skanda Puran, Matsya Puran. There are so many stories available, and which they all tell us different perspective to look at how to reach or how to understand Ardhanari Nateshwar. There is also one way to look at it from Western feminism. You'll be surprised, but yes, Western feminism has done a lot of work. However, how close they are to our truth or how far away they are, that can be debatable. But Western feminism has done enough work or research and written articles, papers, books on Ardhanarishwar. However, personally to me, what appeals to me is Hatha Yoga, or the path of Gorakhnath, path of Shakti, path of a Shakta, and path of a sadhaka rather than a scholar. Because the scholar ultimately comes from the brain and Vishuddhi Chakra. What happens to a sadhaka? The sadhak comes from heart and more of an intuitive, experiential knowledge which reveals itself. So we don't get stuck into my truth versus your truth, my interpretation versus your interpretation. However, we allow through our own body and mind purification process, by our own contemplation within us, within our own being of Ardhanari to reveal its true meaning and the existence and the bliss to us. So let us take this journey together today in this evening and explore. We can look at it as a Dvaita, we can also look at it as a Advaita, right? However, the moment we look at various possibilities and we are able to transcend from Dvaita to Advaita, we experience, we don't just understand. And there is a huge difference. Anyone who has connected with the higher divine potential through their own sadhana would know the difference. Understanding is through reading, writing, talking, debating, arguing. However, experiential is a divine knowledge which reveals itself through our heart, through our consciousness, and connects us to a direct perception of the highest truth. Ardhanari Nateshwar to me is extremely symbolic today. However, before I proceed, let me clarify one thing. There is a beautiful book which has come out recently, book called Sanskrit Non-Translatable by Sri Rajiv Malhotra ji and Satyanarayan Das Babaji. And they have taken us to the journey how lot of misinterpretation of Sanskrit terms have actually created avidya, or what we call is a false knowledge. And therefore, many of the times I would not use English translation of these words, but I would rather prefer to use Sanskrit for retaining its own essence rather than giving a false interpretation or a wrong meaning. And I would urge all of us to go deeper and deeper into the language, because it's through language when we start transcendenting language. Sanskrit is I think, one of the only language which offers us this possibility that through language, through Rupa, we transcend the language and Rupa or the written form, and we connect with Arupa or Vishwarupa. And the microcosm and the macrocosm, they become one. They reveal themselves to us within our own heart or the consciousness. And therefore, why I have chosen Ardhanari Nateshwar today, because a lot of problem that we see happening in the world are a result of either this wrong understanding or avidya, translating or misunderstanding, misinterpreting the real knowledge. And therefore, maybe the Dvaita, which has created not duality, ultimately creates my version, my truth versus your version, your truth. And it becomes divisive. It divides. Rather than connecting, rather than creating a completeness or a wholeness, Dvaita or duality creates this misunderstanding, and therefore the superiority of one over the other. And therefore we see the misunderstanding of men and women, Purush and Prakriti, feminine energy or masculine energy. We forget the energy principles. We get stuck into gender. The whole society we see divided either because of religion, because of racism, because of nationality, because of caste, because ultimately we say one is superior than the other. And the moment there is a superior or inferior interpretation, there is a value judgment. The entire waves of feminism, today they talk of fourth wave of feminism in the West. The entire wave of feminism in the West is reactionary. Reaction is always opposing an action, right? And that I say is because of Dvaita. because of duality, because of not understanding each other from a higher whole or holistic perspective and creating one versus the other rather than inclusiveness of one and the other. I mean, I've read some of the feminist literature and the way they have interpreted Ardha, Nari, Ishwar, all these three terms in a very misleading way. Uh, Ardha, though it means half, it doesn't really mean half literally. It means that we are not complete unless the male and the female aspect within us, not the gender aspect, but the energy aspect within us, is actually becoming one as a holistic energy. They both have their own roles, they both have their own utility in the samsara, and they all have their own positive and limitations. However, when they are together, when they merge together, then Ishvara happens. And Ishvara is not Lord. Ishvara is not God. Ishvara is not the master. And this is where Sanskrit non-translatable becomes handy. Because how do we define Ishvara? Ishvara in Patanjali Yoga Sutra is defined as a Purush Vishesha, somebody who has gone beyond the karmic experiencing of good or bad and is actually indulging into a superior play of life. However, Isha, as my one of my gurus, Vimla Thakar, translate Ishvara as someone who's merged and is aware, is constantly using the energy, the creative energy of Isha. So Ishvara is the creative, conscious use of the divine energy which is within us. It's outside us, but it's also within us because the macrocosm and microcosm are not two. There is no duality, there is no dvaita. And this is where Ardhanariswara allows us to transcend all these misconceptions that have come because of our lack of understanding. We are getting trapped. As children, all of us would have played games, right? All of us would have had our own doll houses or the army of soldiers or cars or various toys, and we would create stories, right? As children, those stories, those characters, those games became our reality till somebody, some adult from the family would shake us up from the game and say, okay, this is a game, it's over. Come to the real life now. Come do your homework. Come have your dinner. It's a time to sleep. It's a time to study. And do we realize that we, in our human experience, have also got, because of the Dvaita and because of avidya, we have got trapped into this Maya of Sansara. So Maya of Sansara, also Maya is not illusion. When we as kids were playing, it was real. It's the way we are living now, the way I'm sitting here and talking, the way you are listening, it's all real, right? However, why is it Maya? And how is it different from Leela? Many a times we forget that this is a game. This is a play. It's a divine play. Today, Sampaji was with us at our Rashram campus, and we had very interesting discussion on evolution and involution, Unmesha and Nimesha, and the whole divine play of how the unmanifest comes to manifestation. And then there is an evolution where we merge again. And then there we reach a stage where then we, whatever involution happens with consciousness. It's not unconscious. We haven't forgotten who we are. However, when we are trapped in Maya, we forget who we really are. Long ago, somewhere I had heard that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And our sadhana on Ardhanarishwar allows us to become the spiritual that we are by not focusing on my gender and your gender, but realizing that it's only the Maya which is keeping me trapped into either becoming a victim of my gender, becoming a victim of my story, becoming trapped in the trauma of my genetics or my history, or the collective unconscious. However, these days of Mahashivratri offer us a possibility where we can transcend Maya. And the moment we allow within our own silence Ardhanarishwar to reveal the union, the inclusiveness of him and her as one. And this androgyny is one of the most ancient archetype within us. And therefore, it's very easily accessible to become connected. And the moment we get connected, we realize that though it may happen at Vishuddhi Chakra, in Hatha Yoga, they say that Ardhanari Nateshwar is at our Vishuddhi Chakra. And then they transcend to the Agya Chakra. And this is also called Shiva's Netra, right? And then it transcends to our Sahasrara, where we become one with the bliss. And that's the path of Ardhanarishwar sadhana. So how do we do that sadhana? On a very physical level, if we want to see, just keep your hand below your nostril and breathe out. Try and feel which nostril is more active right now. Is it the right nostril more active, or is it the left? You can unmute yourself or type in the chat box which nostril you are experiencing right now as more active. In Hatha Yoga, the Kundalini Shakti, which represents the dormant state of energy, the feminine energy within us, and when activated, she climbs up. And as she reaches Agya Chakra, from Agya Chakra, there is a possibility to go to the Sahasrara and achieve self-realization. However, even in our mundane everyday life, even when we are not doing our sadhana, even when we are engrossed in any daily routine activity, just bringing the focus on our nostril, which nostril at the moment is more active, can make us aware which part of our brain is more active, and therefore which energy, the feminine energy or the masculine energy, the Ida or Pingala, which is more active, can be realized. The right side of the body, and this is where in iconography you will see that the Shiva form or the male form is on the right side, and the Parvati or Uma form, the Shakti form, is on the left side. She's called the Vamangi. And therefore, in iconography, there is a distinction between the male body and the female body, and they are joined together, right? Now, in our own body, how does this function? Whatever is there in the macrocosm, which we have imagined as Ardhanari Nateshwar, is obviously somewhere a symbol of what is within our own body. And not just body, but also the energy bodies, the Sukshma Sharira, the Karan Sharira, all the Panch Koshas, right? So the moment, and why I asked about nostril, because the right side is sun, masculine, Agneya, and therefore it is connected with the left brain. Therefore, whenever the right nostril is more active, at the moment, it's the left brain which is receiving this information, interpreting, analyzing, and creating the knowledge. However, the moment you experience that your left nostril is more active, it is your Ida or the Chandranadi or the feminine energy principle, which is more active at the moment. And therefore, whatever you are receiving right now is happening from your right brain. And the Ida and Pingala, they intertwine constantly within our chakra energy system. And again, I'll go back to Sanskrit non-translatable. Nadi is not nervous system. Nadi is a pathway for energy. And therefore, it has a very subtle pathway within our energy bodies where it goes across the chakra. So what happens is that when Ida and Pingala, the feminine energy, the masculine energy, representing itself through our nostrils as an energy, becomes one and becomes Sushumna. And that is the moment during our sadhana, we become one with the divine. It opens up a possibility, but these are very rare moments. And then again, during our normal activity of the day, all the activity is either happening from the left side of the brain or the right side of the brain. However, when you start doing your sadhana of Ardhanariswara, you realize that we are not getting stuck at Vishuddhi Chakra, which is the Dvaita. Because even the left side, right side, it starts when it goes up from here and it reaches Agya Chakra from Vishuddhi Chakra, then the Shiva and Shakti, they come together. Then there is no Dvaita. And you realize how all our Maya are getting trapped into believing avidya and believing that this is my truth and that's the only truth, or this is my path, that's the only path, and everyone should be converted to my religion. That dogma, that dogmatic feeling starts dissolving, but that remains only till our Vishuddhi Chakra. The moment we are able to connect in the Agya Chakra, it's your and mine, they become one. We become inclusive. We become indecisive. Sorry, we become indivisible, non-indecisive. We in fact take better decision, because this is where also the intuition, the Chidakash, the highest possibility of knowledge exists. Unfortunately, neither our education, which has now totally been influenced by the Western education, allows us to experience our own biology from this perspective. And this is where we need to design curriculum. We need to help children from a very young age resolve their own identity crisis. Today, when I look around, and unfortunately, our avidya has created a male-dominated society for many years. And then there is a reactionary feminism, waves after waves, that is reacting. However, today, when you look at the society and the society created by industrial revolution, the people in human resources and the organization corporates would tell us that today, oh, we are in the fourth stage of industrial revolution. So from working only with the machines, now we have reached a level where we can create robots, artificial intelligence, and our life is easy. However, let's ask ourselves, is our life easy? Has all the outer, what we call development or outer progress in technology, has it allowed us to become better humans? Has it created more harmonious society? Has it created a better understanding, a blissful life? No. In fact, the Industrial Revolution brought us to a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that VUCA world, the stress created out of the VUCA world, stress created by consumerism, stress created by unsustainable living on this planet, has created the pandemic. In fact, Mahashivratri and through Ardhanari Nateshwar or Neelkantha or Sadashiv, Ashutosh, Any rupa of Shiva that we see or focus on or do our sadhana, we realize that Shiv represents Kalyana. And Kalyan again is a word, it's very difficult to translate. Kalyan is well-being, Kalyan is welfare, but not well-being only of an individual who's disconnected from others, who's disconnected from Mother Nature, who's uprooted from Mother Earth. And the Shiva Mastu. Look at our Vedic worldview. And this is where I think our Vedic worldview versus the Western worldview needs to become our focus, that how do we take a U-turn? In the West, we see a lot of paradigm shifts because they start from grassroots or the lowest level of analysis, and then they graduate to synthesis. However, the Vedic knowledge begins with synthesis, begins with wholeness, and then we come down to the ground reality. And we also say that the ground reality is a reflection of the highest truth. So we are not disconnected from the highest truth. In Yajurveda, there is a sutta which says, my mind, my mana, again, mana is not mind. Mana is so much more. It's the manas. It connects us with the psyche. Man is our connect with the consciousness or our chetana. Mana is our antahakarana, where the divine can manifest. And how should our mana be? It should be Shubha Sankalpam. It should be connected with Shiva Tattva. And the Shiva Tattva, when Shiva Tattva is the guiding force, then the Shakti or the energy that manifests has welfare or kalyana of everyone into the being, into all the activity, into all the strategy, into all the initiatives of creating the world order. Today we talk of new normal, today we talk of new world order. But the new world order or the new normal cannot be devoid of Shiva Tattva. And the Shiva Tattva without Shakti is incomplete, is Ardha. It becomes Purna only when the divine, in its wholeness, divine with its Shiva and Shakti Tattva, both come together. Even if we look at a very patriarchal or a masculine way of the industrial society that we are experiencing, what are we looking at? We are looking at competitiveness. We are looking at lack of compassion. We are looking at the killer instinct, right? In the corporate, people want killer instinct. They want to capture the territory. And therefore, how have we graduated from the misinterpretation again of Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest? Because we have only looked at survival as a physiological competitive fight of one versus the other, which created the scarcity, which made us human beings actually go down to a mundane level of either becoming a resource or becoming a consumer. Where is our Shiva Tattva? Where is our Shaktitva? Where is our own divinity? Where is the spirituality? And it cannot be either or. The pandemic is actually a reflection of lack of Shiva Tattva, of Shakti being used as a Asuri Sampat rather than for a Daivi Sampat. And Bhagavad Gita explains this beautifully. The Asura, they are not just outside. They are not just the disruptive causes outside us, but they are within us. How do we harmonize them? And the path is very easy. The path becomes easy the moment we are able to concentrate on our breath, maintain few moments of silence every hour, every 2 hours, go within, rather than going only outside. The moment we go within, the moment we focus on our breath, the moment we harmonize our breath, the Shiva Tattva and the Shakti Tattva, the Ida and Pingala, they all merge. And the Sushumna reveals, takes us to the higher bliss, allows us to take better decisions, whether we are a student, we are a householder, we are a career person, whether we are a health worker, whether we are in policy making, whether we are a bureaucrat, whatever role we have chosen for ourselves, it needs this integration. It cannot be either or. For millennia, we have lived a life which is either or. And now even quantum physics, Fritjof Capra has also written about Shiva's dance, his role as a Nataraja. And again, Shiva calling him, I mean, him or her, this gender neutral language that the feminists are demanding. I feel that it's not gender neutrality, but it's gender inclusiveness. And one of my friends, a very dear friend, Dr. Madhuri Patil, she's from Bombay, and we constantly have dialogues about spirituality, about Ayurveda, about humanity, about restoring our own Vedic traditions and build it, integrate it into the curriculum. How do we do this? That's the biggest challenge. Rashram at its own level is trying to integrate all Indic wisdom as a foundation of education and build our future public leaders based on this union of Shiva and Shakti. The both principles, the masculine energy principles and the feminine energy principles, ancient and modern, wisdom and knowledge, IQ, EQ, SQ. These are the Western paradigms. For us, the moment we say Shiva and Shakti, from IQ to SQ, all the intelligences come into one in an integrated way, where the heart and the head do not have a disconnect, where the heart and the head become one because they don't become physical heart or a physical head, but they merge with the chakra, with the nadi, with the higher energies which are within us and which are our potential. So I see these days of the few days, it can be from 40 days to even 10 days that Tantrosav has chosen for our sadhana, for our contemplation, for manan and chintan on the highest, the Shivam within us. And the moment we realize the Shiv and Shakti Advaita within us, we are able to manifest that outside, in the outside world. And then the outside world will not be one of division, but it will become harmonious. It will become a beautiful place where the divine play or the Leela is manifesting, where we are not a victim of Maya, we are not a victim of our own limited belief systems, we are not into our gender stories or religious stories, but we realize the highest human potential, which is the possibility to manifest the divine right here on the earth. And with this, I rest. Let all of us recite Om 3 times, and then we throw it open for any question answers or any dialogue, any insight sharing that participants want.
Not so much a question, but I'd like you to share your insight into how society deals with transgenders today and what we need to learn from our own past about this. And
Sure. Thank you, Deepa. In fact, in Tamil Nadu, there is a transgender community. In fact, they are treated well as Ardhanari also a poetess. She has written a poet on transgender. In our olden history, we realize that they had a very respectable role in the palaces of kings. They were the trusted people. And also they knew a lot of, in fact, I've lived many years in Bombay and took the local train to travel to my work. And next to the ladies compartment, first class ladies compartment, I mean, many times they would even sit in our own compartment and ladies, but they would never harass anyone. Not only that, if any of the men are misbehaving, through those jalis across the compartments, the way they would protect the women. So you can understand that though there are no kings and there are no palaces today, but they do have a purity of heart, many of them. And therefore, we really need to be more inclusive of how do we integrate them in society rather than create a division and keep them away from our daily roles in organizations and society. Even today, in many, it's quite a tradition that in many societies, they always come and they have retained a lot of traditions. They have a lot of power to bless. And therefore, whenever there are marriages, they are invited to sing and dance. Whenever there is a childbirth, they are invited to bless the child and mother. So some of those old traditions are still alive. However, in the urbanization and globalization, we are losing this.
Okay, thank you. I thought they were called for these auspicious occasions more as nazar rather than any positive contribution. So clearly, my understanding was not right.
No, maybe see, in some societies, this is how they would have interpreted, right? But at least in Gujarat, I've realized that they were called more as auspicious.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Another question that I have received is what are your suggestions for women who are mothers who also work outside the home? It causes a great deal of conflict sometimes inside the woman herself.
Absolutely. And this is what I call the identity crisis. In fact, I feel sad that I see a lot of, I mean, I have been teaching young MBA students, right? And a lot of them women. Even before entering marriage or even before entering their full life cycle in corporate, even at a student level, I see a lot of hormonal changes within them because of the identity crisis. One of the main reason is that the success or the role models for success for women have been men, especially as a working life, right? As a corporate life. And how did men behave? They overdid their masculine role, right? And they themselves have neglected their own feminine energy within them. So they became more competitive, they became negligent of family, which was given away to women. However, when women started working, what did they do? They started imitating men. And therefore, you see the dress sense, the colors. I mean, women I mean, they can have the possibility of to become so colorful, right, in their dressing in corporate. But in corporate, what we see is that they also get stuck to black, white, and gray and blue, right? All the men colors. They don't carry their pinks and purples and yellow and orange and bring that diversity at work. Women have the possibility of actually changing the fabric of society, where I think that many of us have failed. We brought up our girls as equal as sons, but we never taught them how to retain their feminine energy and yet enter into what is called a man's world. Secondly, we brought up our sons as normal, the way they were brought up earlier in earlier generations, not helping them to cope with this new woman who's also educated, who wants to be equal. And this is where the gender equality comes, right? It's not about collaboration, it's not about merging, it's not about inclusiveness, but it's more about equality. And I have never understood, why would I as a woman want to be equal to a man? In fact, in Punjabi there is a kahawat, I'll say that first in Hindi and then try and translate. It says, anpad aurat mard barabar, padhi aurat khuda barabar. So an uneducated woman is equal to man, but an educated woman is as like a khuda or a god. So I see the dilemma or the conflicts or the inner conflict or even the outer disharmony and problems, crisis coming in a working woman's life. One, she does not have the support system of joint family. I mean, you don't have a mother-in-law and aunts and other people taking care of children and the kitchen at home. So you are managing your children, you are managing the homework, the household work, you're managing the kitchen, and then you also want to be a very successful career woman. It's, trust me, I've tried, I've been there, done that, and I realized, why did I waste so many years trying to prove that I'm a superwoman? I don't need to. I can relax. I can enjoy my feminine energy. I can take up roles in corporates. And this is where, when I come from HR, my biggest challenge to HR is, can we create workspaces where women and men, they both, I mean, today we are introducing maternity leave and even paternity leave. But a lot of women complain that in the paternity leave, the husbands are more of a headache at home rather than helping, because we have not trained them to balance out the role, which is, you know, the space which has become empty at home because the woman has left that role and she's going outside. Trust me, if we do some research, most of the mental health problem in the world have emerged connected with our food and lifestyle habit. And why has our food and lifestyle impacted so much? Because women have stopped cooking at home. We don't have time and energy when we are full-time working professionals. And therefore, when we focus only on becoming successful in a corporate life, not enjoying the fullest feminine possibility also in an integrated way. And I think it's a complex problem at an individual level, at a collective level. And HR, I would urge all human resource professionals to think of this, that how do we create this integration? You know, we are creating nurturing talent programs in corporates, but we are losing out nurturing mothers at home. How do we balance this out? How do we create better community, better family support system, an ecosystem where a man or a woman, they can manifest their potential? But one thing to all working women, it's a trap to believe that your value is much more, or you can achieve your highest potential only if you are working. Don't put an economic tag to everything that you do. Women bring lot of value add in the sanskriti at home and in society. Don't dilute that by putting economic value to your being.
Malaji, as an extension to what you just said, and as a
Right.
working woman, mother, everything, a lot of the reasons why I continue to work would be that the role of a woman at home is not perceived to have any value. Even women ourselves, we look down. You know, you go to a body and
Absolutely.
you say, "What are you doing?" And she say, "I just stay at home." So, what is that dynamic? Because it's such an important role to keep a family together, to bring up a child. So, what has happened in our heads that we don't see it?
Yeah, so you just answered it, Deepa. It's just only happened in the heads, right? I mean, we have been brainwashed to believe, and even, I mean, I was in the editorial team in Femina when Vimla Patil was the editor of Femina magazine. I was editor of the Gujarati edition. And I would meet so many women and they'll look at me with envy, that as if going to work every day is the biggest thing, achievement in life. And they would say with such, downcast eye and low energy body language, oh, I'm just a housewife. And I would do my pranam to them and say that, oh my God, you are a housewife. You are a homemaker. You have such great contribution. And I think this is absolutely one big scholar of economics, Professor Kanak Sabhapati from Coimbatore. He beautifully explained this in one of the conferences on Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that this is a conspiracy by the corporate to make women feel that she only, unless she has an economic value, that she is valuable. Ultimately, what are you creating? In corporates also, you are creating the feminine energy roles, right? Coaching, mentoring, counseling, which women did at home, right? A grandmother would do, one aunt would do, a mother would do. They would sit together, they would tell stories, they'll make up stories, right? They would be the doctors in the house. They are the psychiatrists at home, right? However, women were in their head, it was put. It is again, I think, a colonized mindset which was created to break the family system.
Oh, that's an interesting thing.
And therefore, listen to your heart. I would tell everyone, listen to your heart. And I would tell all the mothers, especially mothers who have sons, uh, to be extra cautious. Raise your son to integrate his feminine aspect. And I would tell all the mothers who have the daughters that, okay, raise your daughter to be able to live appropriately in a man's world. However, let her not feel that she's lesser. And therefore, I was talking about iconography and Ardhanariswara, right? So much of feminist literature says that, oh, why is the male on the right side? Therefore, the right side is more important than the left side. Who can believe that one of the side is more important? Both are important. Nothing is better than the other, right? So only when there is a dvaita, all these values, judgments, or superiority, inferiority labels come. However, the moment you realize that every aspect, every energy has its own role, and therefore the left is Vamangi is as important as the right side. Does that answer, Deepa, Pushkar?
Yes, it does answer. I think I'll have to think about it a little bit too.
Absolutely. No, see, this is the sadhana, right? I mean, this is a possibility. And therefore, I chose Ardhanarishwar to help us women also understand that no, a woman is not a lesser gender. Woman is not inferior to a male, right? Because Shiva without the Shakti is Shava, right?
Yes.
And therefore, male and female principles as tattva, as principles, as energies are equally important. Also, in different lifetimes, we would have reincarnated in different gender, not only in different yoni, right?
Definitely.
Isn't it? And
Yes.
therefore, it's a whole process of evolution, or in a particular country, or in a particular religion, because I have to integrate something, learn something, unlearn a lot of things, and evolve.
Tomorrow, Nilima Bhatt will be joining us at 6:30 to talk about leading with Shakti and anchored in Shiva. I request the participants to come back tomorrow for the satsang. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste and thank you, Malaji.
Namaste. Thank you, everyone.